A company wants to use AWS services to discover, transform, and visualize large customer data sets. Which combination of services fulfills this? Correct answers: AWS Glue and Amazon QuickSight. Explanation: AWS Glue, data discovery and extract, transform, load. Amazon QuickSight, visualization and reporting. Why others are incorrect? Amazon Redshift, data warehousing and analytics. Amazon EFS, file storage system, not analytics. Amazon QLDB, ledger database for immutable records, not data analytics. A company uses Amazon Aurora in US East 1 and needs disaster recovery in another region with minimal disruption. What's the best solution? Correct answer: Aurora cross-region read replicas. Explanation: Aurora cross-region replicas provide near real-time replication to another region for disaster recovery, minimizing downtime and data loss. Why others are incorrect? Multi-AZ increases availability within a single region, not cross-region. Aurora replicas used within one region only. EBS snapshots, not a real-time replication method. A company wants to reduce manual operations and ensure consistent automated responses. Which well-architected framework principle supports this goal? Correct answer: perform operations as code. Explanation: the operational excellence pillar recommends operations as code to automate management tasks, reducing human error and improving consistency. Why others are incorrect? Dedicated hosts, compliance use, unrelated to automation. Compute optimizer, right-sizing tool, not for operations. Code deploy, deployment tool, doesn't enforce operational consistency. A company's new website must serve downloadable handbooks securely to users worldwide. Which AWS solution best supports this? Correct answer: Amazon CloudFront with Amazon S3. Explanation: S3 stores static files, while CloudFront CDN securely delivers them globally with low latency and SSL encryption. Why others are incorrect? Kinesis, for streaming data, not content delivery. EFS, file storage, not a content distribution method. EC2 plus load balancer, adds cost and complexity for static content. Which AWS service enables companies to run AWS infrastructure and services within their on-premises data centers? Correct answer: AWS Outposts. Explanation: AWS Outposts extends AWS infrastructure and services to on-premises locations, providing a consistent hybrid cloud experience. Why others are incorrect? Systems Manager hybrid activations, manages servers, doesn't host AWS services. Storage Gateway, connects on-prem storage to AWS, not full AWS environment. Direct Connect, provides network connectivity, not compute or storage services. A company wants to design a system with components that can work independently without affecting each other if one fails. Which AWS services help build such a loosely coupled architecture? Correct answer: Amazon Simple Queue Service, SQS. Explanation: Amazon SQS helps decouple application components by allowing asynchronous message passing between services. It ensures that if one component fails or slows down, the rest continue to operate smoothly. Why others are incorrect. AWS Trusted Advisor provides recommendations for cost, security, and performance, not architecture coupling. AWS Step Functions orchestrates workflows but doesn't directly provide decoupling. Amazon Workspaces, a virtual desktop solution, unrelated to application architecture design. An enterprise operates multiple VPCs across several AWS regions and wants to centrally manage and connect them efficiently. Which AWS service meets this requirement? Correct answer, AWS Transit Gateway. Explanation: AWS Transit Gateway provides a scalable and centralized way to interconnect multiple VPCs and on-premises networks across regions, simplifying network management. Why others are incorrect. Site-to-site VPN connects on-premises networks to AWS but isn't meant for managing multiple VPCs. VPC endpoints enable private connectivity to AWS services, not inter-VPC networking. Direct Connect offers dedicated connectivity between on-premises and AWS, not inter-VPC management. Which AWS feature helps determine whether an IAM role or an S3 bucket is shared with external entities? Correct answer, AWS IAM Access Analyzer. Explanation: AWS IAM Access Analyzer detects external access by analyzing policies attached to IAM roles or S3 buckets to identify resources shared outside your AWS account. Why others are incorrect. Systems Manager manages configurations and automation, not access analysis. AWS Organizations manages multiple AWS accounts, not access visibility. Service Catalog manages approved resources, not access analysis. According to the AWS Shared Responsibility Model, which task is solely managed by AWS? Correct answer, Physical and Environment Controls. Explanation: AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, which includes data center security, physical access, and environmental safeguards. Why others are incorrect. Guest OS patching, customer responsibility. IAM policies, defined by customers. Security awareness, customer responsibility for their staff. A company continuously reviews and improves its AWS operations and supporting processes. Which AWS well-architected framework pillar does this represent? Correct answer, Operational Excellence. Explanation: Operational excellence focuses on continuously improving operations, automating changes, and responding to events effectively. Why others are incorrect. Security protects data and systems. Cost optimization minimizes costs. Performance efficiency ensures optimal resource use. A company runs a database 24/7 on EC2 for 1 year with a predictable workload. Which purchasing option provides the best cost savings? Correct answer, Standard Reserved Instances. Explanation: Standard Reserved Instances offer up to 75% savings over on-demand for steady, long-term workloads. Why others are incorrect. Spot, cheapest, but not reliable for continuous workloads. Convertible RIS, more flexibility but slightly less discount. On-demand, most expensive for constant usage. Which step is required when deploying a PCI-compliant workload on AWS? Correct answer, use an AWS service that is in scope for PCI compliance and apply PCI controls at the application layer. Explanation, AWS provides a list of PCI compliance services. Customers must select these and implement PCI DSS controls at their application layer. Why others are incorrect, raise a support ticket to enable PCI compliance and use any AWS service and request compliance enablement are not correct because AWS does not enable PCI via support tickets. Use only non-PCI services and encrypt data because non-PCI services are not suitable for PCI workloads. A company's application runs for short durations in response to events or data changes. Which compute service minimizes cost and operational effort? Correct answer, AWS Lambda. Explanation, AWS Lambda executes code only when triggered, automatically scales, and charges per execution, ideal for event-driven workloads. Why others are incorrect, Amazon EC2 reserved instances, Amazon EC2 spot instances and Amazon EC2 on demand. EC2 options require server management and constant billing. A social media app wants to detect and remove inappropriate photos without building ML models. Which AWS service should it use? Correct answer, Amazon Rekognition. Explanation, Amazon Rekognition provides pre-trained ML models for image and video analysis, including content moderation, without needing ML expertise. Why others are incorrect, comprehend, text analysis, not images. Textract, extracts text from documents. SageMaker, for custom ML model building, requires expertise. A company's workload runs non-stop for a year and cannot tolerate downtime. Which EC2 option is the most cost-effective? Correct answer, all upfront reserved instances. Explanation, all upfront reserved instances provide the highest discount for 1-year or 3-year continuous workloads with full prepayment. Why others are incorrect, on demand, costliest for 24/7 workloads. Dedicated, for hardware isolation, not cost efficiency. Partial upfront, slightly less discount than all upfront. Which AWS service helps detect threats and continuously monitors for suspicious or unauthorized behavior in your AWS environment? Correct answer, Amazon GuardDuty. Explanation, Amazon GuardDuty is a threat detection service that uses machine learning, anomaly detection, and threat intelligence to continuously monitor AWS accounts and workloads for malicious or unauthorized activity. Why others are incorrect, Amazon Inspector, focuses on vulnerability management, not threat detection. AWS Config, tracks configuration changes, not security threats. Amazon Macie, detects sensitive data, not general malicious activity. How can you enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, for an AWS account using a browser interface? Correct answer, by using IAM via the AWS Management Console. Explanation, you can enable MFA for an AWS account directly through the AWS Management Console under the IAM service. It's the simplest and most common method. Why others are incorrect, command line or API methods can configure MFA but are not browser-based. EC2 is unrelated to IAM or MFA management. Which AWS service provides best practice checks and cost optimization recommendations for your AWS environment? Correct answer, AWS Trusted Advisor. Explanation: AWS Trusted Advisor analyzes AWS accounts for cost optimization, performance, security, and fault tolerance improvements. Why others are incorrect: guard duty, security threat detection, not cost or best practice recommendations. Service catalog, manages approved service templates, not optimization. Ground station, satellite data processing, unrelated to cost or best practices. Which AWS services help mitigate distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks? Correct answer, AWS WAF and Amazon Route 53. Explanation: both AWS Web Application Firewall and Amazon Route 53 include DDoS protection capabilities, especially when used with AWS Shield. Why others are incorrect: AWS KMS manages encryption keys, unrelated to DDoS. CloudTrail logs API activity but doesn't prevent DDoS. A company is migrating to AWS Cloud from on-premises infrastructure. What advantages does this migration offer? Correct answer, ability to deploy globally in minutes and increased global reach and agility. Explanation: AWS provides rapid global deployment and greater agility, allowing businesses to scale and innovate faster than on-premises infrastructure. Why others are incorrect: security audits are still required. IT staff responsibilities shift, not eliminated. Redundancy depends on design, not automatic for all services. A company wants to migrate on-premises Microsoft SQL Server licenses to AWS EC2. Which instance option supports this? Correct answer, dedicated hosts. Explanation: dedicated hosts allow customers to bring existing software licenses, such as Windows or SQL Server, that are bound to physical servers. Why others are incorrect: dedicated instances don't give license visibility at the host level. Reserved instances, pricing model, not licensing solution. Spot instances, for short-term workloads, no licensing benefits. Which AWS service should be used to build and coordinate serverless workflows? Correct answer, AWS Step Functions. Explanation: AWS Step Functions orchestrate multiple AWS services, including Lambda, into serverless workflows, managing state and execution flow. Why others are incorrect: code build, automates code build processes. AWS Lambda, executes functions, doesn't manage workflows. AWS Connect, a cloud contact center service. AWS EBS, block storage, unrelated to workflows. What are key benefits of using consolidated billing in AWS organizations? Correct answer, volume discounts and one bill for multiple accounts. Explanation: consolidated billing lets you receive a single bill for all linked accounts and aggregate usage to qualify for volume discounts. Why others are incorrect: no installment plans in AWS billing. Budgets are managed via AWS budgets, not billing. There are no extra charges for consolidated billing. Which security task is the customer responsible for in the AWS cloud? Correct answer, managing server-side encryption. Explanation: under the shared responsibility model, Customers handle security in the cloud, including data encryption, IAM, and OS-level security. Why others are incorrect? All other options are incorrect because AWS manages the physical infrastructure and hardware security. A user with an AWS Basic Support Plan discovers illegal activities running on their AWS resources. What is the appropriate way to report this? Correct answer: contact the AWS Abuse Team. Explanation: AWS Abuse Team handles reports of illegal, abusive, or unauthorized activity on AWS resources. Reports can be submitted via abuse@amazonaws.com. Why others are incorrect? All other support options address technical or billing issues, not abuse cases.